think it goes without saying, you know, Cambridge are the men and Oxford are the wusses.
Just learn to kind of hate Cambridge, and after a while it's in your genes.
The alma maters of Marlowe and Milton, Oscar Wilde and T.S. Eliot. Cambridge and Oxford conjure images of neither pain nor battle nor searing intensity. Rather, the world's two most famous universities seem idyllic, peaceful, crowded only with history and tradition. But beneath the surfaces here, or rather running through them, an extreme contradiction. For rowing, a sport of nearly fanatical mental and physical dedication, is by far the most popular sport at both colleges. Once a year, the best of both meet in a contest so old that it's known simply as the boat race, as though it were the first ever, and so important that 100,000 spectators throng the banks of the Thames for a view. The race is a curious balance of traditional and modern. By custom, team captains are called presidents and have the power to hire and fire their own coaches, while a bristling swarm beam the race via satellite to 250 million viewers in 160 countries. In the words of sports historian George Plimpton, the boat race has no peer. Until you've seen Prince Philip trailing in a 60-foot launch, felt the focus of an entire nation on 2 college crews, you've missed one of the great events in sport. But what is it that makes this boat race the boat race? We asked some rowers, past and present.
Explain a boat race to no one who's ever seen it before.
The normal rowing race is 2,000 meters, straight, buoyed, you know, very clear start line, very clear finish line. You just go.
The strange thing about the boat race is that it's a race side by side, just 2 boats. Okay, no second chances, no repechage in the Olympics, no 6-lane racing, just you against Cambridge.
The boat race is a little bit different. It's first of all, it's 4.5 miles long
Over a course which has 3 bends in it.
One little bend, and then a big bend, and then another slight bend.
For me, that's what, you know, it's just a contest, a little bit like a prize fight.
You can just pick your opposite man. I'm racing that stroke man there, you know, and I've got to try and beat him. It becomes much more intense.
At the start line, you have to go off like it's a 500-meter race, 1,000-meter race, 2K, and then just keep going.
You have to take the first round or you're sort of likely to lose out in the end.
It's very difficult to claw your way back from a big deficit. And that's what makes this different than any other race, is that you just, at all times, just have to stick with the other crew and just have to keep on driving and keeping them next to you and eventually try to break them in half.
That's better. Keep it going now. Keep it going. That's good. Come on. Keep it going. Keep it going. Keep the depth going. That's good. Keep it going. Come on. It is 8 seconds now. That's better. Deeper. The rowers have achieved the highest results we have seen in this laboratory or anywhere else in the world. And in a way, the rowers have rewritten textbooks.
I mean, they have the ability to sit on an ergo and do, say, a 5-kilometre test for whatever, 16, 17 minutes, get off and maybe throw up everywhere.
It's a tough haul of 6 days a week, getting up at 6:15 in the morning for 6:45, and then spending 7, 8 hours a day training.
What is it, a month's workout to put a potato into orbit, something like that?
I want to see this.
The thing about Cambridge is that it is very flat and bleak, and when the wind picks up like this, there's nothing to stop it. It just keeps coming and coming.
When I was doing it, I always seemed to be just on the edge of getting a cold. But I think when you train as hard as the boat race rowers do, you're always kind of nearly sick, but not quite.
It's something like 2 hours of training for every stroke taken in the boat race.
If you would be as violent or as brutal in any other sport that involves contact, you will have a huge body count afterwards.
You know, I reckon if some of the guys didn't do rowing every day, they'd be axe murderers or something.
Although less than 1/10 of 1% of the population has ever attended either university, it's one of the great charms of the boat race that for a single day it unites England across a common divide. Who are you for?
Oh, Cambridge, Oxford. Cambridge, definitely.
I say Cambridge.
Cambridge, actually.
Anyone who buys hats.
Oxford.
私はオックスフォードを応援します。
Oxford. 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 Cambridge, definitely Cambridge. Cambridge, right.
Few people are more divided about the race than Cambridge President Richard Phelps and Oxford President Jeremiah McClanahan. In previous years, the president's rivalry has been cordial, sometimes friendly.
I challenge you to race.
But there were no smiles at this year's traditional challenge.
Do you accept my challenge?
On behalf of Cambridge University, I accept your challenge.
And no love lost between these two rivals.
How long have you been rowing?
It's my 13th, 14th year.
First put out on a rowing boat by my grandfather in 1973.
And until then, I had a social life and
Rowed for the Great Britain national team in '86, and I've been in the national team thereabouts since then.
I used to play soccer and basketball, but my interests have narrowed in the years since.
I've always been a Cambridge man. Don't know why. It's the way I think you're born. It's in your genes. You're either male or female, and either Oxford or Cambridge. That's the way it goes.
I love Oxford. And I love the Oxford crew, and you know, I do what it takes to get things done.
I don't despise them, no, because ultimately they're human beings, all human beings. But on the day, I just have complete contempt for them.
He's very pretty to look at, and he talks very well on camera. What you find with rowers is those guys who are very competitive, but you know, clumsy, or I can't play ball for my life, but I like to compete, and I love to compete.
I like moving a boat well, and that still gives me real satisfaction, and I enjoy winning.
If you work hard, you will get better. You know, there's no sort of walk-on great talents. You know, you put the time in the gym, you put the time in the boat, in order to really, be able to get out there and race somebody, and to beat them.
I'm not a great fan of heavy training, but I'm a good fan of winning. So if I need to train hard to win, I'll do the training.
I don't know what could replace it. You know, it's just something that gets inside of you, and it's hard to let go.
And there are those, of course, who think that rowing is a sort of scourge on society. It should be sort of stopped immediately and banned.
8 months of training without going out. What do you think we do after the race? Once the pressure comes off, you know, the drinking boots come on.
How important is it to win?
I've never had the big win, the sort of, Hoosiers type, win in the end.
If you don't win the thing, you've lost it. And so I'm not used to losing that sort of race now.
Maybe that's why I'm still here, 4 years after I should have left university and gone and gotten a job and done something productive with my life. But hopefully this is it. This is the year.
With international Olympians like Bangert, Banovich and Brownlee, Cambridge have been the heavy favourites for months. And Oxford? Well, they've had their share of rough water.
Oxford have had their difficulties. The weather has played a major part in their opportunity for good quality water training so far. We generally reckon that it evens out in the sense that if the weather's cold, Cambridge get frozen, and if it's wet, Oxford had their problems. And this year, it's all been very much one way.
We've had to pull together people from a lot of different backgrounds, which has been, quite a challenge. But I think we're getting there.
But reports of last-minute crew changes that might spell trouble have been leaking out of the Cambridge camp, while in the last 2 weeks, the Oxford Blues have begun to gel.
This last couple of days, they've put the pressure on Cambridge. They've really improved technically over the last 2 weeks. They've enjoyed coming down to London to row. They've enjoyed being under Dan. and I think they're enjoying the prospect of racing. And Cambridge, on the other hand, the last few days they've had illness and they've swapped around, and I think that plants the seed of doubt in their mind. It puts a question mark over their experience, over their talent. But they're favourites, and they deserve to be.
It's pretty good there, Nick. Just watch it slow.
Harry Mahan is the Cambridge finishing coach, the wizard who put the shine on last year's flashy 8.
His great talent, I think, as a coach is that he can really put himself inside the individual oarsman and feel what's going on. He's direct and honest in his comments that he directs to people, and he gets a good response from them as a result.
But has Harry's 11th hour shuffle steered this year's crew out of their line? Oxford supporters hope so, but those who know him doubt it.
I think it's part of Harry's style, and that although the press has seen it this year and has picked up on it, because they have actually changed their final order, I don't think it's been unsettling for the boys. In fact, I think it's been another piece of Harry working with the boat and improving it.
On a day like today, 70 and clear, it's easy to see why the boat race is the traditional start of the English social season. But the race hasn't always run in such lovely weather. Boat races have been held in hail, snow and driving rain. High winds and rough water sank the 1978 Cambridge boat. In fact, Cambridge leads in sinkings, 3-2.
Waterman declared race conditions the worst for 70 years, and each cox wore goggles to help in their difficult task. Ready for the 4.5-mile battle. And to the umpire's words, "Are you ready? Row, the 1952 Battle of the Blues is on."
Despite the sunshine, the rowers are grim. For them, it's Judgment Day, the final verdict on 7 months of grueling sacrifice.
All you want to do is get on the water and get away from the crowd, and it becomes again a private race between the two boats, the two boat clubs.
The common enemy of both crews, and especially their coxes, is the Thames, with its twisting channels and devilish currents.
The two crews are going to start right here and basically go off hell for leather, because the boat race rules say as soon as you get in front of another crew, you can take their water, row in front of them and wash them down. So that's what both crews will desperately be trying to do today. The first landmark they really come to is the Fulham Wall, which they'll be rowing along to the Fulham football ground. And once they pass the end of the Fulham Wall, that's when they're officially awarded their blue. If the boats happen to sink before the wall, none of them will get blues. Whoever's on the Fulham bend is going to have a slight advantage there of about half a length. The crunch point usually comes after about 3 minutes. That's when people start to tire and the race starts to dictate itself. Then they'll row up towards Hammersmith Bridge, which is a significant landmark. That's when the crowds get really loud, just there, just where the pubs are. Usually the crew that is in front of Hammersmith Bridge has gone on to win in more races often than not. You shoot Hammersmith Bridge, then they'll row on round the Long Surrey Bend, which gives them a big advantage of about a length and a half to the crew on the Surrey station. And they'll come round and they'll start the approach into Barnes Bridge. If you don't shoot it in the middle arch, you get disqualified. And I can say almost definitely the crew that's in the lead by Barnes Bridge is going to win the race, unless it's going to be a classic. And then they start the last 4 minutes usually. It's either hell if you're losing or pure elation if you're winning, into the end to Chiswick Bridge.
Already in the boat is Roger Taylor, rode in the race last year, a great British international. The Cambridge president, Richard Phelps, the oldest man in the race at 29, rode for Britain in the 92 Olympics. Simon Newton, rode for Goldie 92 and 93, fourth year chemical engineering, 24 years old. Scott Brownlee, a New Zealander, rode for his country in the 92 Olympics. Father Mark also rode in the Olympics. Dirk Bangert from Germany, rode in the race in 92, 93, doing research into nuclear physics. Matthew Parrish rode in the race last year, an old Etonian, also went to the University of London. Marko Banovic from Zagreb, the first Croat to row in the race, rode for Croatia in the 92 Olympics. Miles Barnett, stroke for Goldie last year, learnt to row at Cambridge, comes from Harrogate. The Cox, Russell Slatford, 25 years old, postgraduate in education, funnily enough going to school next year quite close to Oxford to teach. And Robin Williams, the man that many people would say is the inspiration behind the Cambridge crew. And so to the Oxford crew. In the bow, Jonathan Kawaja, formerly Princeton University, USA, from Toronto. Garth Rosengren, another Californian, formerly at Harvard. Boris Mavra, 23 years old, born in Belgrade, became a Great British citizen in 1993. Laird Reid, the heaviest man in the race at 15.5 stone, world junior champion in 1987. And Jeremiah McClanahan, the Oxford president, formerly Yale University, rode in ISIS in 93-94. Hugh Caroon, US Junior International, previously Harvard and Munich University. Rob Clegg, 28 years old, rowing in his second boat race, vice president of the boat club and son of Oxford Blue Duncan Clegg. Jorn Thronsen, Norwegian Junior International, formerly at UCLA. And the Cox, A.B. Chapman, at 19 years old, the youngest woman to cox a boat race crew. With her, Daniel Topolsky, returning to Oxford this year as Director of Coaching, previously coached Oxford from 1973 to 1987.
And the 141st boat race for the Beefeater Gin Trophy is underway. And if anything, Oxford have made the slightly better start.
They have. They've rowed very cleanly in the first couple of strokes over the top of the rougher water and are showing, 8 or 10 feet lead in the first 15 strokes.
Quite choppy here. They're going into a headwind. Oxford being warned as Abby Chapman tries to push across. Coming very close together, the two crews now.
The umpire's got his flag up to warn Oxford, I think. Abby Chapman just trying to push Cambridge a little bit too hard, and that steering has cost them the lead again, and they're back level.
Yes, Cambridge have certainly caught up and now have, if anything, a fractional advantage. You can hear Russell Slatford, the Cambridge Cox, concentrating on the finishes of his crew.
Finishes middle four, finishes now, keep this curve.
Cambridge have established a much better rhythm around the outside of this bend, and Oxford not rowing badly, but still, a third of a length down on the inside of their bend when they should be hopefully in charge of the race.
And Cambridge stretching that lead, and Oxford now must cling on. They must take advantage of the bend around the Fulham football ground, but it's over half a length now.
It is, and it's been very good rowing from Cambridge. They've got a good rhythm going, moving very nicely together, and just stretching the lead that bit more. They're really getting a good grip of the race, getting in command.
Their corner, give them nothing.
Russell Stafford saying, their corner, give them nothing. There's Fulham's football ground. So Oxford really had the advantage of their bend now, and they're still half a length behind.
I think the important thing for Oxford now is they know they're not going to win this race in the first 2 or 3 minutes. They need to settle into a rhythm that's going to hold them against Cambridge on this straight, and more importantly on the long bend, which isn't in their favour, that they've got to row around the outside for the next 10 minutes.
Nice clean blade work on Cambridge's stroke side. Linton Richmond, the umpire, warning them again. They're coming very close again. Abby Chapman trying to push Cambridge right over to the bank, out of the stream.
She is. Both crews are battling very hard for the bit of water that they think is moving fastest, and it tends to push the crews together. And you can see there that the blades are very, very close. We've had no contact, but again the umpire is warning both crews to move apart. And Cambridge 3/4 of a length ahead. And
not going away.
Not going away, and that's a good sign for Oxford. The river's straight here, so there's no advantage to either crew. And Oxford have established a better rhythm than they had perhaps a minute or so ago, and are hanging on.
It's looking very solid. The Cambridge crew perfectly balanced the boat as they come up to one of the famous landmarks on the left there, Harrods Depository.
Russell Slatford calling a move. It's a very important part of the race for Cambridge here. On the first part of the bend, they really want to make it pay against Oxford, try and push away.
And they're doing just that as they come up to Hammersmith Bridge. Suddenly Cambridge have got almost a length's lead, and with this huge bend around the bridge in their favour, well, Cambridge have decided this is the time to try and decide this race.
It's a great bit of tactics. Classic entry into the bend. Russell Slatford looking over his shoulder at Oxford, and as they come up to the bridge, they're going to look for even more advantage. Oxford looking a little sluggish, working perhaps a little bit too hard for the speed that they're getting.
Be loose. Got a bit of wind. Power curve, second half. Second half.
And now Cambridge leading by, what, just over a length. Oxford, Abby Chapman, the Cox, is now faced with a choice of whether to sit in the worst water that comes off Cambridge's boat or try and steer a line of her own. And in fact, she's steering a line of her own, a little bit wider than Cambridge. That's probably the sensible choice.
And Russell Slatford there was referring to Harry finishes. That's Harry Mahon, the New Zealand national coach, who's played such an important part in the Cambridge revival over the last 3 years, and of course Beefeater's sponsorship for the last 9 years, another 3 they've just signed for, enables these university clubs to bring the best coaches in the world over.
It's vital. The standard of the boat race is going up all the time, and they're almost full-time athletes along with their studies, but they need full-time coaches.
Well, some rough water there for Oxford, and they're really beginning to look a little laboured here. The stroke is shortening just a fraction, and Cambridge, in a couple of minutes, without increasing the rate, have pulled clear.
I think that's a vital point. Cambridge haven't really expended that much more energy, but just with a bit more rhythm, they've suddenly opened up a really commanding lead over Oxford.
But not even Topolsky's expertise has been enough for these men.
Well, Dan Topolsky's done a tremendous job with Oxford. He's really brought some life to the boat club after 2 successive defeats, but it hasn't been good enough.
Good enough, though, for Cambridge. Brownlee, the New Zealander, Bangett, the German, Parrish, Banovic, the Croat. Wonderful feeling for them. Barring disasters, they know they're going to win, but for this crew, desolation.
It is, and it's a horrible feeling for Oxford. They know with, what, a minute and a half left in the race, there's nothing they can do now to try and turn defeat into victory, and 6 months of training have come to nothing.
Getting ready for the last 10.
For Cambridge, though, it's a great feeling, and perhaps for the first time on the course they can begin to enjoy their rowing. They can hear the crowd screaming them on, and it's a wonderful feeling in the last 10 strokes.
And that's all that separates Cambridge from victory now. They're coming up fast to the finishing post. The flag will fall in just a second, and Cambridge win the 141st University Boat Race. Cambridge will receive the Beefeater Gin Trophy from Lord Snowdon, and they're delighted.
When the exertion is over, all that's left is exhaustion and emotion. For Cambridge, the winners of a race that's 20 minutes and 6 months long, there's euphoria, celebration, and a traditional drink. But one man's pleasure is another man's pain. For the Oxford crew, who've spent the last 6 months trying to turn water into wine, it is a biting moment.
I have no regrets. The guys did great. They worked hard all year in conditions that no Oxford crew has ventured out in shitty weather that no crew should row in, and they were great.
I don't know what he's going through because I never lost this race. I'm glad the battle was on the water, and I hope in a given space of time we'll be able to look back together about the battle that we had.
Each one of those people in each boat has spent 5 hours of his day, for the last 6 months, just for this 20 minutes. And they should just appreciate, the pressure and, what they've been thinking about for the last 6 months has all come down to this point that they're privileged to watch.
Like all great sporting events, the boat race brings out the best in those who compete in it. And in that way, regardless of who wins, the boat race has no losers.